Hi, third grade. Hello. So we learned in our first video about context clues. And we're going to actually read chapter 9 in our Magic Treehouse book today. So make sure you have chapter 9 ready to go when we're ready to read. You're going to read along with me. And we're going to find words. I picked out some interesting words. You're going to see that I might have underlined them in my book. Do not write in your book. Remember, the kids next year need your book. But we learned about something called context clues. Context clues. And we learned in a video that that's basically being a word detective and looking for clues. Sometimes we don't always have a dictionary, or we always don't have time to Google it. That takes away from our reading. But we also words that we don't know, but we also don't want to skip over words we don't know because it might interfere with us comprehending a story that we really like and that we're really into. And we don't want to miss any meaning of what we are reading. That defeats the purpose of reading. We want to read to enjoy reading, and we can't enjoy what we don't understand. So we're going to learn how to use context clues like skilled readers. Skilled readers or strong readers always read the sentence and try to fully guess using context clues what the word might mean that they don't know, an unknown word, using the words around it, and also using what they already know about what's going on in the story, and maybe some connections they might have, okay? They might have some connections. You might have some connections with the character. That might help you understand what's going on, and that might help you understand a word you come across that you don't know. So we learned about 5 main context clues, and there's a way to remember the 5 context clues, and it is called ideas. Ideas. So when I say context clues, I want you to think of ideas. Ideas. The I in ideas stands for inference. Now, an inference is an educated guess as to what the word might mean using what you already know about the story, what you know from your life experiences, and cause and effect experiences in the story. And D stands for definition. Definition. And sometimes the author gives us the definition of a word within the text that we are reading. They just go ahead and tell us what it means. Then another context clue we can use is an example. E stands for examples. Sometimes the author gives examples of what they are talking about, what a word might mean. They give us an examples or an example right after the word. And then our next one is antonym. Sometimes an author gives us antonyms to help us figure out what a word might mean. And then our last one is, forgot in here, the last one is S, and that stands for synonym. Now, a synonym, that is words that are similar to the word we're trying to figure out. And remember, antonym is opposite. Antonym is opposite of the word we're trying to figure out. It may give us examples of something that might be in contrast with what we're trying to figure out. And then a synonym is the same. So we're going to think of ideas as we read chapter 9. So go ahead and get out your book. We're going to read chapter 9. And as we read chapter 9, we're going to think of ideas to figure out words. Inference, definition, examples, antonyms, and synonyms. So in chapter 9, we're going to use context clues to try to figure out some words. We're going to practice our new strategy. So turn to chapter 9. It is on page 52. And it's called The Amazing Ride. And now remember, in chapter 8, remember we said that Jack was a little puzzled here. He saw his sister talking to Henry the Pteranodon, and all of a sudden, the Pteranodon was flying above him. Remember what situation he is in? There he is. Jack is trying to get back to the treehouse, but the T-Rex is standing in between him and the treehouse, his safety. So his sister's coming down to try to save the day. And then here comes Henry. Let's see what happens. The Pteranodon coasted down the ground. Down to the ground. Coasted. I underlined that because I thought this was a good word to use our new strategy. What does coasted mean? The Pteranodon coasted down to the ground. What could coast mean? I believe the context clue that's going to help us with figuring out what coasted means is the word down. The word down. Coasted down to the ground. We have to infer what we know about pteranodons. We know that they are flying reptiles, prehistoric reptiles. We know that the pteranodon was in the air above Jack, and now it is coasting down. Means he's landing. So we can use our inferencing clues. We can use inference as a clue here to know that coasting means to maybe glide down. Because as he's landing, he's not going to flap his wings. He's going to prepare for landing. So he's going to coast down and probably stop. He stared at Jack with his bright, alert eyes. What was Jack supposed to do? Climb on it? Climb on? But I'm too heavy, thought Jack. Jack looked at the Tyrannosaurus. It was starting up the hill. Its giant teeth were flashing in the sunlight. Oof. Okay, thought Jack. Don't think, just do it. Hey, that's what Annie usually says. Aw. Jack put his book in his pack. Then he climbed onto the Pteranodon's back. He held on tightly. The creature moved forward. He spread his wings and lifted off the ground. Jack nearly fell off as they teetered this way and that. Teetered. Let's see if we can find clues to find out what teetered means. We know that Jack, let's use a little bit of inferencing first. We know that Jack is on the Pteranodon's back. We know that they're preparing to lift off the ground. He spread his wings and lifted off the ground. Oh, they already lifted off the ground, but it says Jack nearly fell off as they teetered this way or that. I think the author here gave us an example of what teetered is, because it says that Jack nearly fell, and it said way this way or that, this way and that. So if Jack was on the back of this pteranodon and he almost fell, that means maybe teetered means swaying. Because we are going to use what we already know about flying, and we know that it cannot be not so perfect, especially if you're riding on the back of a giant pteranodon. I mean, we have to imagine that has to be difficult, and that if someone were to ride on the back of a pteranodon, they might nearly fall off because it is swaying. It is swaying. So it gave us some clues there. It gave us Jack has nearly fell off and it was moving this way and that. So the pteranodon steadied himself and rose into the sky. So steadied, we can use what we know up here about swaying to know that steadied means maybe gaining more control, which is the opposite of teetered, right? So we can say, this antonym up here is going to help us understand this word, because at first they were teetering and now they are steady. That means they got more control and they rose into the sky. Jack looked down. The Tyrannosaurus was staring up at him and chomping the air. The pteranodon glided away. He sailed over the hilltop and over the valley. He circled above all the duck-billed dinosaurs and all the nests filled with babies. Then the pteranodon soared over the plain, over the Triceratops, who was grazing in the high grass. What would grazing mean? What do we know about the Triceratops? We're going to have to infer here. What do we know about Triceratops and maybe high grass? What do we know? Well, we know that a Triceratops, we learned in the other chapters, that they are plant-eating dinosaurs, herbivores. So that means they are probably doing what to the grass? They're grazing the grass. They're eating the grass. So if I replace, let's see if that makes sense. Over the Triceratops who was eating in the high grass. That kind of makes sense. Grazing. Jack felt like a bird. The wind was rushing through his hair. The air smelled sweet and fresh. Can kind of imagine that you're Jack right now. Look at this scene. What an amazing illustration. How thrilling. Look. Man, the author really wants to set the mood with this illustration here. I wonder how hot it is there. That's what I wonder. Remember, we're still using our strategies that we've learned from previous weeks as we read. Once we learn a strategy, we want to make sure we're using them. And one of the strategies we learned was to ask questions about the illustrations. Jack whooped and laughed. He couldn't believe it. He was riding on the back of an ancient flying reptile. The pteranodon sailed over the stream and over the ferns and bushes. Then he carried Jack down to the base of the oak tree. What could the word base mean? Down oak tree must be the bottom of the oak tree. Must be the bottom of the oak tree. When they came to a stop, Jack slid off the creature's back and landed on the ground. The pteranodon took off again and glided into the sky. "Bye, Henry," called Jack. "Jack, are you okay?" Annie shouted from the treehouse. How do you think Jack is feeling about Henry now? Remember, he said Henry had a small brain in previous chapters. How do you think he feels about him now? And that might be the first time I think Jack has ever said his name, the name that Annie gave him. "Jack, are you okay?" Annie shouted from the tree house. Jack pushed his glasses into place. He kept staring at the pteranodon. "Jack," Annie called. Jack looked up at Annie. He smiled. "Thanks for saving my life," he said. "That was really fun." "Thank Henry, not me," said Annie. "Come on, climb up." Jack tried to stand. His legs were wobbly. He felt a bit dizzy. What could the word wobbly mean? I think the author planted dizzy here to give us a clue as to what wobbly might mean. Gave us a synonym. Well, not really a synonym, but an example, or maybe we just have to infer. We have to infer what does it feel like to be dizzy? Now when you're dizzy, you kind of feel like not steady. Wobbly kind of probably means that your legs were wobbly, and that it might mean it might feel a little shaky after riding a pteranodon. Hurry, shouted Annie. It's coming. Jack looked around. The Tyrannosaurus was heading straight towards him. Jack bolted to the ladder. He started climbing. Hurry, hurry, screamed Annie. Jack reached the top and scrambled into the treehouse. It's coming towards the tree. The Tyrannosaurus is coming towards the tree. Oh no, it's coming towards the tree, Annie cried. The dinosaur slammed against the oak tree. The treehouse shook like a leaf in the wind. Jack and Andy tumbled into the books. Make a wish to go home, cried Annie. We need the book. The Pennsylvania book, said Jack. Where is it? They both searched madly around the treehouse. Found it, said Jack. He grabbed the book and flipped through the pages. He found the photograph of Frog Creek Woods. That's where they were in the beginning of the story. Jack pointed to the picture in the book. I wish we could go home, he shouted. The wind began to blow. Jack closed his eyes. He held on tightly to Annie. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster, and everything was still. Absolutely still. And that was the end of chapter 9. We're on our last chapter. I'm so excited. Did they make it home? We'll find out in the next chapter. It was fun finding context clues with